I don't have keys to this building, but trust me, I'm not sneaking onto this property. Right under here. It's called the Gimbal. I make history videos about Galveston. So I have a YouTube channel, I'm all over Facebook, and I have a podcast. It's called Galveston Unscripted. So that's what I'm making right now. You might even make an appearance. Yeah, have a good one. What does 19th Street and the beach have to do with World War I? Well, I'm going to tell you. At the outbreak of World War I, the United States had decided to remain as neutral as possible. As the war ravaged in Europe, countries like Britain and France wanted the United States to join to bring the war to an end. And even as German U-boats were sinking Allied and neutral vessels in the Atlantic, the United States remained neutral. But as we all know, the United States ended up joining World War I. Let me show you something. Many of you may recognize this body of water behind me, the Gulf of Mexico. A little over 100 years ago, before cell phones and email, every telegram routed from Europe to North America, destined for Central, South America, and Mexico, ran right under my feet. An intercepted message known as the Zimmerman telegram ran right under the sand at 19th Street, destined for Mexico City. Germany sent a coded message to Mexico, urging Mexico to wage war against the United States, which in theory would keep the United States out of the war in Europe. A huge thanks to this video sponsor, Texas' oldest newspaper, The Daily News, bringing you the news since 1842. Support your local newspaper, The Daily News. Let's take it back a few decades before World War I. Before telephones, back in the mid-1800s, long-distance communication was difficult. No email, no cell phones, not even telephones. But what you could somewhat rely on was a telegraph. In 1880, the Mexican Telegraph Company was founded, and Galveston was selected as the perfect geographical location for the relay hub and headquarters of the Mexican Telegraph Company. Galveston is right on the Gulf Coast, and in 1880 it was one of the largest major cities in Texas, making it the perfect place to relay messages to Mexico, Central, and South America. I'm standing here on Avenue O in between 18th and 19th Street. This little piece of land right here was the location of the relay building. And for decades, this was connected to an undersea cable that extended out under 19th Street and the beach, all the way to Mexico. This relay building was connected by a series of wires to the downtown headquarters of the Mexican Telegraph Company, which was on Strand, 2103 Strand, which is still standing today. So any telegrams bound from Mexico, Central and South America, from North America and even Europe passed through Galveston. Thousands and thousands of messages. In 1995, this building was moved over to 33rd Street behind the Menard House. Telegraphs, for the most part, used a form of communication called Morse code, a series of beeps like this, where each series of beeps or pauses depicts a letter in the alphabet or a phrase. Many countries, especially during wartime, would create a secret code that only they knew, so other countries couldn't read their messages. So here we are on Strand, where this building right here was home to the Mexican Telegraph Company, 2103 Strand, where telegrams from Europe and North America would come to this office and be relayed to the relay building to be sent down to Mexico, Central, and South America. Telephones for communication across short distances entered the mainstream in the 1880s, but during World War I in the 19-teens, Germany couldn't just pick up the phone, call Mexico, and ask them to start a war with the United States. In January 1917, with World War I at a stalemate, German military leaders devised an audacious strategy to hinder America's entry into the war. Germany's Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Arthur Zimmerman, approved a secret encrypted message to Mexican President Venustiano Carranza. The diplomatic communication sent via coded telegram proposed substantial financial support and an alliance in exchange for Mexico's invasion of the American Southwest. If Mexico could draw the United States into a war in North America, Germany promised their support in the return of the land lost during the Mexican-American War, specifically Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, when World War I came to a close. Germany hoped this would keep the United States preoccupied with a war on their home front, instead of entering the conflict in Europe. Mexico was unlikely to accept this offer, as they were in the middle of a civil war and lacked the unity and military force to achieve an invasion. Germany could not deliver this message personally or by ship due to British blockades and Britain's interception of German communication lines. German forces relied on transatlantic cables, sending encrypted messages via American undersea telegraph cables. The encoded message, known as the Zimmermann telegram, was relayed from Denmark to London to Washington, D.C., and then to Galveston to the Mexican Telegraph Company to be forwarded to Mexico City. Using this telegraph network is like if someone borrowed your own phone to plot against you. Little did the Germans know that British intelligence agents monitoring messages via the U.S. Embassy in London with advanced code-breaking operations intercepted and deciphered the telegram. The content of the message was astonishing. Along with asking Mexico to start a war with the United States, Germany sought to enlist Mexico as an ally and encouraged them to approach Japan to join the war against the United States. The Germans also planned to resume unrestricted submarine warfare, promising to sink any vessel allied with Britain and France. After the telegram had already been passed through Galveston to Mexico, British intelligence passed a copy of the decrypted message to the U.S. government on February 19, 1917. Upon receiving news of Germany's proposal to Mexico, President Wilson, who had campaigned on the promise of keeping the United States out of the war, faced a dilemma. Revealing the telegram could push the United States into a war with Germany. On March 1, 1917, the Zimmermann telegram was made public in the United States, sparking outrage and anti-German sentiment. As suspected, many Americans publicly questioned the validity of the telegram, but that was swiftly put to rest on March 3rd, when Arthur Zimmermann himself admitted to the telegram to an American newspaper reporter. As the Zimmermann telegram passed through Galveston's telegraph wires, it symbolized a turning point in history. The role of the United States as an isolationist country was now being questioned by the Americans. Staying out of the war in Europe could spark a separate war on the home front. The Zimmermann telegram convinced the American public that Germany could force a conflict in North America, although large-scale conflict with Mexico was unlikely. A little over a month later, on April 6, 1917, the United States declared war against Germany. America's involvement in World War I undoubtedly ended the conflict much quicker than if they had stayed neutral. After the United States joined World War I in 1917, over 100,000 Americans were killed in combat. An armistice was announced on November 11, 1918, officially bringing the war to an end. Although the telegram was intercepted by British intelligence before it arrived in Galveston to be relayed to Mexico, it's intriguing to think about Galveston's role in passing thousands of messages, encrypted with calls for war against the United States or not, to and from Europe, North America, and Central and South America. The Mexican Telegraph Company operated in Galveston from 1880 to 1949. In 1949, the telegraph wire under 19th Street and Beach was severed, as other forms of communication became mainstream, and the Mexican Telegraph Company became obsolete. So here I am behind the absolutely gorgeous 1838 Menard home, where the Telegraph Relay Building was moved in 1995. Here we have the historic marker that was placed here in 2017, noting Galveston's significance in relaying this message, pulling the United States into World War I. And here you can see this building is pretty small, and all it would house was electronics that would receive and boost signals that would be headed for Mexico. All right, we're gonna take a really close look. I don't have keys to this building, but trust me, I'm not sneaking onto this property. I'm here with Galveston Historical Foundation, so we're gonna take a look at where the wires would have actually gone into this building, right under here. So it would have gone right through that hole, in and out, the Zimmermann telegram. Now, walking along the seawall at 19th Street, it is really hard to imagine the thousands of messages that must have passed right under my feet, especially one that brought the United States into World War I. Even though Galveston played a small role in the Zimmermann telegraph story, it's important to understand Galveston's role in this vast telegraph network that stretched thousands of miles south all the way over to Europe. So what does 19th Street and the beach have to do with World War I? The Zimmermann telegraph's interception, decryption, and revelation to the American public served as a catalyst that brought the United States into World War I and truly changed the beginning of the 20th century. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or you learned anything at all, please be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all social media. We are everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Go follow us. We have a little bit of different content coming out on all of those platforms. And go check out the podcast. We've got hours and hours of audio content on that podcast exploring Galveston's rich history in so many ways. This island is truly incredible. Thanks for walking with me, and we'll see you next time on Galveston Unscripted. This looks about right here. Wonder if I can find that cable.